Alongside Eric Kane, Rob Lewis, and Brett Hubbs, I'm Austin Price. Welcome to the Rocky Top Roundtable, the last one of the regular season. It's Tennessee, it's Vanderbilt. Tennessee could play the role of spoiler this week. Vanderbilt's trying to slide into the backside of the college football playoff.
Well, there are a lot of things have to happen for Vanderbilt, but take all of that out of the equation. The bottom line is this is the biggest matchup between these two teams in the history, probably, of this series. Both teams are ranked for the first time, Rob Lewis. This is not your mom and daddy's Vanderbilt-Tennessee game to close out the regular season.
I mean, it's got to be the best Vanderbilt team of my lifetime. I mean, and you just mentioned import. I mean, whether Tennessee, there's no playoff on the line for Tennessee, it feels huge. I mean, especially coming off the Florida game, you won that one. You got a chance to finish strong and to spoil the best Vanderbilt season that anybody can ever remember. I mean, I think it's a pretty spicy way to end for Tennessee.
Yeah, Vanderbilt obviously playing for a playoff and then trying to position itself to get in that field, but also playing for the first 10-win regular season in program history. Coming to Neyland Stadium, rivals, you got a quarterback in Diego Pavia that's had a couple offseason comments about Tennessee, a guy that loves when everybody's looking to him to go out there and perform, and he kind of feeds off that. It's going to be a hornet's nest. It should be a really, really good environment against two teams that are, pretty good at football.
I think what you learned last week with the win over Florida was that this team was mentally ready to kind of finish out the regular season. They weren't just checked out, right? They came in, they were focused. You had just some things to play for. Now, I think last week was easy with the fact that I think it's fun to do things that haven't been done in a long time or never done before. Last week you were trying to do something that hadn't been done since 2003. This week it's just beat Vanderbilt, and it's a rivalry game. It's at home, which means you should have a little extra juice, a little extra pop. But Vanderbilt's going to match that with the fact that they're a motivated football team. So it's going to be interesting to see how Tennessee gets off to a start in this game. Emotions of senior day, run through the tee for a group for a final time. But I think it's important for Tennessee to get off to a hot start just like they did last week.
Well, I mean, Tennessee's been a great starting team all year long. Jason Swain said this last week, and I agree with it. It's not about the first 15 plays for Tennessee offensively, because they've been really good in that world all season long. It's about plays 16 through 30. What does Tennessee do? And Saturday night in Florida, Tennessee was terrific 16 through 30. They just continued to do what they did in that opening drive. I think Austin made a good point, though. Where's the emotions of senior day? How do you get that in check to ramp your intensity back up to start this football game?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great question for this one, but I also think the way this team has started all year, at least offensively, I mean, it would make you feel good about they know how to handle their business, coming out of the gate. You mentioned the script, I mean, and that's part of it, but I also think that in a game like this where emotions are something that you worry about, having a script to fall back on, again, offensively, is kind of a comfort zone. You know what you're going to do, every time to start the game. But the way they started against Florida would give me some confidence that, this team is focused on finishing the right way. And I think oddly, and maybe you can agree or disagree, for the first time ever, the pressure of this game's on Vanderbilt.
Yeah, I mean, you got to avoid that lull, right? Second quarter lull, second quarter turnovers like, Tennessee had in recent weeks. And I don't count at Florida in the second half because, again, it was 31-0 at the half. There was only 3 possessions on both sides in the second half. But you look at what Vanderbilt does offensively, and it's, second in scoring behind Tennessee in the league, 5 in total offense, 4 in rushing, or 4, like second in passing, whatever it is. They're a top 3 offense in the entire conference. So they're going to be producing. And you like to think Tennessee's defense has taken steps the last couple of weeks, but Oklahoma's offense, Florida's offense, New Mexico State offense, not the greatest show on turf here. So how much improvement have we seen from Tennessee's defense? Because Vanderbilt's going to score. It's up to the offense. You can't find those lulls. You got to continue to counter back and continue to keep pace. I think this is going to be a high-scoring football game. If you have a bad quarter or a bad 2 to 3 series, that might be enough to where you can't come back against potentially a high-potent Vanderbilt offense.
You look back at Saturday night. You talk about the scripting of the plays, the opening series. I love the stuff to Ethan Davis. But then their ability to run the football, and to end the game in a totally different manner than you started the game, closing out with a 4-minute offense that went 8 minutes. I mean, if you're an old school football lover, you love that north-south, just be able to just grind it out at the end.
Yeah, I mean, let's be fair, though. I mean, Florida was some turtles on their shells laying on the back. I mean, they were done. It was completely done. You're not going to be able to line up and do that this week. I think this week is going to be about you have to be able to run it. You have to have some continuity and some balance, Rob. but you're going to have to splash it a little bit. You're going to have to hit some bigger explosive plays because I don't know that you're going to just be able to line up and grind it out for 6 or 7 minutes, 8 minutes on the football field and march the length of the field against this defense.
And to me, again, every game is different. I mean, Coach Heupel loves to say that every game plays out differently. But that was the most surprising thing about the win at Florida for me, Brent, was that Tennessee didn't splash play Florida to death in the passing game. They didn't. In fact, they had, I think, a 21 out. Ethan Davis, the 23-yard screen pass in the first drive of the game was the longest pass play of the game. You know, I don't know if that means that you can. Are you going to run for 250 against Vanderbilt? You know, if you do, then you don't worry about the splash plays that much. But are you going to do that 2 weeks in a row when you hadn't done it all season? I don't know. So I'm with you. I mean, I think you need to chunk them up pretty good. And the way Tennessee has done that to people, you know, makes me have a lot of confidence they will do that at home.
I mean, Tennessee did a good job of just kind of taking what was given to them by Florida. I think Tennessee came in with a really good game plan. I mean, you mentioned the one pass that went over 20 yards, that resulted in over 20 yards, that touchdown reception. Aguilar threw one throw, you know, down the field 20 yards or more. It was into double coverage when they took a shot in the second half. That was it. They were playing 3 high safeties, and they just kind of took what was given to them. Now, Vanderbilt's defense, not nearly as impressive as what they do offensively with Pavia and Alexander and Stowers and some of those other guys. I mean, there was some talk about defensive play calling. Would they shift some responsibilities? They've given up 30 points in like 4 or 5 games this year. They've given up 200 yards on the ground. They gave up a ton of points to Auburn 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, they did.
And Kentucky's not a world beater. I'm not trying to act like that. But Kentucky's much better right now than what it was when Tennessee faced them, and they held them in check last week. So the defense has kind of been all over the place a little bit, but certainly I think that there's opportunity for Tennessee to get those splash plays and to move the football down the field much more than obviously what that defense has done throughout the course of the season.
I think it's going to be interesting in this matchup. And watching the Texas-Vanderbilt game, Texas went sideways. A lot of receiver screens, a lot of shallow underneath stuff. They didn't throw it really hard vertically down the field. They kind of they were not greedy. They were very patient. How does Vanderbilt play Tennessee? And I think, you know, with the Kentucky game, they said, you know what, we're going to take our shot on whether or not Joey Aguilar can consistently complete the vertical shots. And all he did was go perfect that night, throwing 20-plus yard plays. But that was the poison they picked.
Sure.
Florida said, we'll take a death by 1,000 paper cuts, to borrow your line. Yeah. The question is, how does Vanderbilt play Tennessee defensively? How quick does each offensive side of the ball get a feel for the defense in terms of how to attack them?
When I look at this game, it just feels like both offenses have a lot of momentum. I feel like Tennessee's defense has more momentum at this current stage than Vanderbilt's defense has. And I think that's kind of how I look at the matchup. That's not to say that Vanderbilt can't win the game, because I know they certainly can. But I feel like Tennessee's defense, because they've gotten healthier, Arion Carter looked way more explosive the other night than he has at any point in the last 6 weeks. Josh Josephs, you know, gutted through it the other night, having been dinged up last week. It just feels like the defense is rounding into form, all things considered.
Well, I think, yes, that's true. But then I think Eric said it earlier, like, they have not played a great offense. They have not played an explosive offense. You were not worried, Rob, about Florida throwing it over your head with their wide receiver situation. Kentucky's not throwing it over anybody's head. Neither is New Mexico State. So where is the, man, this defense has really improved versus, man, they haven't played a great offense since they played Alabama? What does that look like?
My counter to that, and I see what you're saying, my counter to that would be Cutter Boley looked like Joe Montana out there, you know, a month ago going against Tennessee. And Kentucky's never been a great offense, but they made him look that way. So my point is even with bad offenses, they've made them look good at times. So have they figured something out? Have they gotten healthier? I don't know. I'm just saying, like.
Oh, I think they're better. I think the question is to qualify how much better are they. It's hard to know for sure. We're going to find out Saturday.
I would say my phrase would be I feel like they've tightened some things up, but I don't feel like they're a wholesale different defense than they were, you know, a month ago.
I think Ty Redmond's playing his best football that he's played all season long. I mean, he certainly is not playing like a true freshman any longer. He's played so much, but going up against an experienced quarterback, and we know what Colton Hood is, right? They didn't even challenge Colton Hood's way at the Florida game. I think they went Redmond's way 3 times, gave up 1 reception for like 3 yards. What does a veteran quarterback in Pavia, does he play games? Does he disguise some things? You know, do you get caught looking in the backfield, falling his eyes? How does a guy like Ty Redmond play in a game like this where, again, I think he's playing his best football? We'll see exactly with Redmond and the entire defense overall. I think Tennessee's defense got to play aggressive. Obviously, he's going to run, set the edges for things inside. But really tried to put pressure on him because last year he was hurt a little bit, but Tennessee knocked him out of the game. I mean, he was a non-factor last year. Will you replicate results this time around? We'll see, but you got to be aggressive.
Tennessee played a lot of 3 linebacker sets at Florida, which is unusual. They did that to try to spell McMurray because they really don't feel comfortable with their backup star. Can they play a true 4-3 against this Vanderbilt offense effective as it was at Florida? Because it was a really good setup and a really good scheme for Tennessee down there. Can they incorporate that in any way, shape, or form against the Commodores?
I think it's important, too. Vanderbilt, they work to the tight ends, got a good tight end.
Got a great tight end.
They also like to throw it vertically a lot. They like to take deep shots. When you do that, you've got to be able to get home. Can Tennessee's ends, can their edges, can their interior guys push the pocket and force Pavia off platform and get home? If that happens, then I think Tennessee's got some real opportunities to have some success Saturday.
Well, and how much does Tim Banks dial it up to get home? I mean, they went a lot of zero coverage at Florida. Again, that was lack of fear, but there were some 3rd and long situations or 3rd down situations where it's like there's 9 guys, 8 guys at the line of scrimmage, and everybody's coming. How aggressive does Tennessee play it from a blitzing standpoint against Pavia on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can be that aggressive with Stowers and the speed they have on the perimeter. But I mean, to AP's point, I mean that's one of my biggest questions about this game. Unless Tennessee runs for 250 yards again, then all bets are off. I mean, you can give Vanderbilt 40 points, but can they affect Pavia? Because as Eric mentioned, he was a non-factor last year. Can they affect him? Can they get him off platform? Can they make him scramble? Can they get in his head, get him down? I mean, that to me is a game changer.
Tomorrow is Turkey Day. We know the turkeys in this game. We know the meat of this game. Give me the dressing.
I think it's Tennessee's ability to run the football plus Tennessee's patience as play callers. Do they get caught up in, wow, they hit a splash play, we got to hit a splash play? Or do they stay more to the script that we saw against Florida and not be as greedy and patiently drive the football down the length of the field?
Well, I kind of jumped the gun. Mine is get after Pavia, and Tennessee can do that. It's not like they have to manufacture, something that they haven't done all year. I mean, they can get there off the edge. They can generate pressure. Can they get home in this game and really affect him?
Shocker, Diego Pavia runs the football a lot. I think the defensive ends for Tennessee's got to have a game, and that's obviously not losing contain, but also it's squeezing that in-man line of scrimmage down to kind of clog things up, making him bounce and then go make a tackle. That's defensive ends, that's linebackers flowing down. You've got to contain Pavia. He's going to get some. I mean, DJ Lagway the other night got a couple as well. He's going to get some, but you can't let him take over the football game with his legs. He has 42 more carries on the season than RB1, Cedric Alexander for Vanderbilt. So I think the defensive ends, the edge players, a big week. A guy you mentioned the postgame mini-pod, Tyree West, last game in Neyland.
There you go.
Go in there and have a day.
You know what? You just took it right from me. I was going to say I've got 2. It's one, it's play complementary football. It worked so well last week. Why not do it again? And 2, Tyree West has had that knack for having big hits, big plays. Big hits, big plays. I don't know. Senior day, something about that kid. Just call it a hunch. We'll see what happens. It's Tennessee. It's Vanderbilt. It's coming up on Saturday at 3:30. For Eric Kane, Rob Lewis, and Brent Hubbs, I'm Austin Price.